My name's Davida Shinsky, and the title of this program is Live Without Limits, Reach Personal Success on a Daily Basis. Our purpose is to help you overcome any limiting beliefs you may have by talking about relationships, personal growth, mental health, and psychology. And today's presentation is titled Five Thoughtful Shadow Work Journal Prompts to Heal Your Wounded Inner Child. All of us have an inner child. It's that little child within us that has been hurt that we are taking care of. If you ever have been to therapy, you may have heard the therapist talk about the inner child. Essentially, the inner child is a metaphor for the emotional aspect of ourselves. A wounded inner child refers to the unhealed emotional fragments that we as children just couldn't process and heal for one reason or another. Childhood experiences that you may not have been able to process. When I was in elementary school, I witnessed a traumatic event dealing with a family member. It was a life and death situation, and I was paralyzed by fear. My brain and nervous system were still developing and not quite strong enough to know how to process and integrate the flood of negative emotions I was feeling. So it did what it's designed to do. I put me in survival mode. My particular survival response was the freeze part of the fight, flight, or freeze response. However, I didn't mean to freeze in the way of just being still, to gather my senses, to make a rational decision as to what to do next. I mean freeze as in emotional shutdown, a full disconnect of my mind and body, sensations and emotions. My mind went back just after that incident, and to this day, I still cannot recall what happened immediately after the terrifying event. The emotions and bodily sensations became fragments that were banished to the dark side of my psyche, or what some call the shadow. Now, what I want to say is that growing up as a disabled individual prior to the laws guaranteeing people with disabilities the right to an education, I was the only one in the classroom with a disability, so I was different. And because society at that time did not acknowledge its disability community, I was ostracized and bullied in the classroom. Then I grew up in a home that was very dysfunctional, where there was a lot of verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. I got the brunt of the physical abuse, and I got the brunt of the emotional and verbal abuse simply because I was independent and desperately wanted to take care of myself, and they were not allowing me to do so. And they would constantly make me feel as though I was worth next to nothing simply because it made them more powerful. So, what is the shadow? According to Jungian psychology, the shadow is the unconscious or dark side of the psyche. It's not dark in that it's bad, rather, it's dark because you aren't aware that it's there, and you're not aware of what's hiding in there. Things that may be tripping you up in your everyday life. The shadow is a term coined by psychoanalyst Carl Jung. Shadow work is simply taking the light to your consciousness and shining it into the shadow side to see those wounded inner child parts that are wanting to be processed and healed. Closer examination of the dark characteristics, that is, the inferiorities constituting the shadow, reveals that they have an emotional nature, a kind of autonomy, and according to the obsessive or better possess, possessive quality, said Carl Jung. I have a quote by Carl Jung that I keep on my computer, and it says, "It's not what happened to me, it's what I choose to become." Meaning that in my case, I did not allow what my parents did to me keep me from being what I wanted to be. And because of that, the abuse was very intensive and constantly telling me how I was stubborn. But what it is that my personality is very outgoing and very caring. And I was not someone that was going to sit home and do nothing all day. My personality is to be someone who likes to interact with people and help someone when I can. That's what all of my podcasts are about, is personal development, because who you are depends on how you accept things and whether or not you're going to allow yourself to be the person you were meant to be or the person that someone else wants you to be. I like to think of the shadow side of myself as those parts that I've repressed, rejected, shunned, disowned, or forgotten about over the years. They could be emotions in our memories. Why should we be concerned about our shadow side? Because when the psyche gets lopsided and the darker side or the shadows outweigh the lighter side, ego consciousness, those shadows can have a negative influence on your current life, including your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And one way that I can attest to that is that I can see where the anger that I felt towards what was happening to me years ago seems to be leaking out now at times just through my thoughts on how others treat me. The role of the ego. You see, when you're born, the mind develops what is called an ego. Now, the function of the ego is to process information and store it away in the brain. However, when you experience little and big T traumas, the ego doesn't always know how to fully process this. As a result, it will ne- relegate the negative emotions associated with the trauma to your shadow side. But the thing is, those strong emotions don't just disappear, they're sort of frozen in time. That is, until later on down the road when those emotions come knocking on the door to be seen, heard, and processed. The inner healing work. Almost everyone could benefit from embracing an inner healing work journey. This is the kind of hard journey that requires you to consciously go within to say if there's any shadow lurking that are causing you to experience negative thoughts, emotions, or behaviors. The more trauma you experience throughout your life, the more likely you'll benefit from doing an inner healing journey. That being said, if you have experienced quite a bit of trauma throughout your life, you may want to do shadow work alongside a professional therapist. Not everyone can do the healing work as a self directed process, and that's all right. Give yourself permission to reach out for support if you need. Deep emotional work like this can bring us very powerful feelings, especially if you have been repressing them for years. Know what you need to ask for professional support and don't do it all on your own. Inner child shadow work, journal, prompts. But when I was going through a really tough time emotionally after a relationship breakup, I knew that I needed some professional support. It didn't take long for my therapist to start talking to me about my wounded inner child. She took me through some guided visualizations where I was envisioning me as a little girl feeling sad, broken, or scared. She encouraged me to start building a relationship with my inner child at various ages and stages throughout life. I saw myself as a wounded little girl who experienced some traumatic things. This helped me begin to realize that some of these intense negative emotions I was feeling as an adult was a result of me repressing those emotions when I was young. I began to journal, to reparent that wounded little child and bring a relationship with her. Ultimately, this helped me process and heal some strong negative emotions surrounding some trauma. Some of the inner inquiry and asking particular questions can help you heal a wounded inner child or process and integrate shadows, getting to know yourself better in a way that goes deeper than your day to day life can ultimately help you feel more emotionally whole. The following are some shadow work prompts to help you do a little digging into your shadow side. They can help you get in touch with your inner child and tend to any wounds that your inner child may be feeling. Some words of caution. If any of these questions bring up feelings that are overwhelming, just stop. Take a few deep breaths and ground yourself. Feel your feet on the floor. Do a full body scan and focus on your relationship. It's all right to skip over questions that you aren't ready to answer yet. You may want to go over them with a therapist, mentor, or someone else that can provide a safe, supportive space. 5 shadow work prompts to, to try. Shadow work 1. Envision your inner child at whatever age you feel that they needed the most support. What do you look like? What are they doing? Write a letter to that little you, affirming them abundantly. Let them know that you love them deeply. Let them know they are brave, worthy, lovable, and so on. See them smiling as you read the letter to them. Shadow work prompt number 2. Now, envision your inner child when they experienced something that was tough for them. Maybe they were bullied or fell off the bike. Perhaps someone hurt them. Take a few moments and see what pops into your mind. Remember, whatever happened then is not happening now. with eyes closed, see your wounded inner child standing there and envision that you are an adult walking up to them. Apologize to them for what they experienced. Let them know that you're sorry that they struggled so much. Ask them if you can give them a hug. Then give them a hug and affirm them. Let them know that they are now safe and that you're there to protect them. Shadow work prompt number 3. What did you most enjoy doing as a child? How did those things make you feel? Are you feeling those types of feelings now as an adult? If not, what are some ways that you can cultivate those feelings? Shadow work number 4. Can you think of a time when someone hurt you as a child? Maybe they insulted you or physically hurt you. Have you taken time to process that? Do you think that you're carrying animosity regarding it? Is this something that you'd like to talk to someone that's supportive about? Shadow work number 5. On a scale of 1 to 10, how functional do you think your home life was growing up? If you think you had a happy home life, tap into your inner child and see what they think. If it wasn't so great, write about the reasons why. Journaling can help you process and release possible pent up emotions about your childhood and your unique inner child healing. These are just a few inner child healing prompts, but they should be enough to give you a glimpse into the shadow side. Again, if you've experienced trauma as a child, seeing a professional counselor can help you immensely. If shadow work prompts trigger you emotionally, it's best if you reach out for the supportive person who can hold space for you and revisit your past and heal. Shadow work can be a powerful tool to help you learn more about yourself as well as heal wounds that have been festering for a while. There are plenty of shadow work and inner child healing journals that can help you. Take your time as you continue to do your inner healing work and lavish abundant love and compassion on yourself as well. The last thing that I'm going to say about this is this, that years ago, I took part in training in psychodrama. And what that was where you could act out a scene where you had an alter ego behind you that would say things that they thought maybe you should have said. And then you can say exactly what they said, or you can reword it in a different way. But it's a way to express and interact with someone in an actual scene to work through some of those personal traumas.